Dane Moore. It's Paul Allen. How are you?
What's up, PA? How you doing, man?
Pretty good. Thanks for the time on this Friday, man. Dane Moore at Dane Moore NBA. Then there's the Dane Moore podcast. You can learn more about that via his Twitter feed. Rave reviews for Dane from the respected Jim Peterson and super well respected by Johnny Athletic, signing off on all facets of Dane Moore NBA. And you work with some really cool guys, don't you? Like your cohort's also covering the team. It's a good group, man.
Yeah, dude, we're really lucky on the Wolves beat for two reasons. I think is one, we've all been there for a while. That's hard to do, to all kind of be keeping our jobs for an extended period of time. So we've known each other for a while, and then Chris Hine, Britt Robson, John Krasinski, Jace Frederick, Kyle Teige, people I work with. The Wolves haven't been good for a long time, but the Wolves beat, I really do believe, is a strong group.
Cavs tonight in Minneapolis. John Blair Bickerstaff, JB Bickerstaff, former Gopher. He, in my estimation, he's done a wonderful job with this team. I mean, Donovan Mitchell's always in and out. Now he's out for a little bit and navigating through not having Evan Mobley. Max Strus, the former Heat, he hasn't played for a few weeks now. Yet they're competitive or like winning all of the right games. And Jared Allen without Mobley, man, sometimes those double-doubles are unbelievable. J.B. Bickerstaff and the Cavs, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to play big, right? Which is, we don't know which Wolves players are going to play here, but it's kind of funny. I was watching the Cavs last game. Like, they got Tristan Thompson coming in there now and just, like, hitting the A-gap and just blowing up the offensive glass. So it is a very big team, and right now we know with the Wolves that physicality, right, is a little bit of an issue. They had to start, they're without Gobert, Towns, and Nas, obviously, as you know, in the last game. So they need some size back against Cleveland, I think, to be able to match up with their physicality.
Dane, you are an elite NBA mind, so please help 9 to noon with this, and I'd like to begin here. In your estimation, if it's top of the head, straight from your heart or whatever, it doesn't matter. Your quick twitch is good. Who is the most disappointing team to this point of the NBA season?
I mean, I would like to hear an argument for any team other than the Phoenix Suns, right? Like, how could it not be the Suns? They are, we like to say the Wolves are all in with the picks and stuff that they made, or they traded in the Gobert trade. Well, the Suns did that and more, completely depleted their asset coffers in terms of being able to make future draft picks or future trades. They don't have a young stable of players like the Wolves do with Edwards and McDaniels and Reed, and they're 8th in the standings, and the Wolves are 3rd. So they are in a terrible position. I would hate to be a Phoenix Suns fan right now because your all-in move is not working, and you look like you're pretty directly on the path to being terrible for the next decade. It's as bad as I can remember any team being in a spot. So
from 41-29, and I agree with you with that alleged MV3 with KD, Beal, and Devin Booker, and they, Beal and Booker have missed so much time this year. It's been tough, specifically Beal, to get those three together. But from 41-29, they're 7th. And they've won 2 in a row. Who knows if it's coming together? Nurkic is playing great right now, but I see where you're going with that. Despite the record, do you think it's foolhardy to include the San Antonio Spurs in this conversation, or just outside of Vassell, Keldon Johnson's having a bad year, but they have Wemby, and inherently when you get that guy, you're going to be ballyhooed.
Yeah, I think it was just like a roster that was built to not be able to succeed. And then it like the pieces around Wemby never made sense, or Pop wasn't like empowering them around him. I mean, really, Wembanyama's season started making a lot more sense, and we saw these numbers and these the narrative that created on Wembanyama actually did really take hold after he started playing a lot better, which happened once he moved to starting to play center. They took Zach Collins out of the starting lineup, and they started playing him alongside a point guard. They were playing Jeremy Sohan at point guard earlier in the season, too. It hasn't made sense. I guess, long story short, hasn't made sense if you've been watching Spurs games all season of, like, what the heck is going on around Wembanyama? Like, I just thought that roster wasn't going to be good. And when people were talking about them maybe being able to squeak in as a 7 or 8 seed just because Wemby was that good, I was like, yeah, I mean, I think Wemby's going to be good, but you don't really have other good players on your team other than Vassell and the rest of the players. That's not how I would think about putting a roster together around Wembanyama.
So in most disappointing NBA team to this point at this juncture of the season, Dane Moore at Dane Moore NBA stamps Phoenix and completely makes sense. But two below them would be the LA Lakers at 37 and 32, and LeBron and AD are questionable for every single game, and they basically play. It's like the Edwards bit right now, questionable but always playing. So you have a couple of HOFs there. Why wouldn't the Lakers be a consideration?
I go back to how all in they are. They actually didn't make further moves at the deadline to further put themselves in debt in terms of draft picks that they sent out. Like, yeah, of course, when you have LeBron James, and given that Anthony Davis has been really healthy this season for the most part, like, yeah, you would have thought that the Lakers would be higher than the 9 seed in the West right now. But I think like what the Suns did was classic new owner syndrome, trying to get in, put all the chips in the middle, and win right away. Mm-hmm. And that's historically a terrible path to go. And this one is as bad, I think, as it has been. I mean, yeah, the record's 41 and 29, but who do you think they have a chance at winning the Western Conference?
No.
Actually, let me put it to you differently, Pia. Who'd you rather play, the Lakers or the Suns, if you're the Wolves in the first round?
Wow. Wow.
Even that you're hesitating, Suns, I think, is an indication that what the heck are the Suns doing?
Right.
Wow. They're falling apart.
Yeah, that's a terrific question, because I believe in the game a couple of Sundays ago at Crypto, had Gobert played, they beat the Lakers. However, 2 nights later, I think if Kawhi stays in the game, they don't beat the Clippers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I feel that for sure. I think part of this, too, with the Suns, and they play the Wolves play the Suns 2 more times here in the beginning of April, and the only time they played them, if everyone remembers, was after they played the headlock Draymond Green Gobert game in San Francisco on November 16th. And then they'd fly to Phoenix and play in Phoenix on November 17th. They looked terrible, exhausted, back to back. We haven't seen this Wolves team play with that Suns team, which is a real sort of game where both teams are there. I'm curious to see what that looks like and how the two teams match up. But yeah, I'm really getting to the point where I'm I don't know. That might be one of my top choices if I was the Wolves for a first-round matchup. And to land the plane on this, because some more NBA-wide / Timberwolves-related questions for Dane Moore at Dane Moore NBA, nice enough to join us on this chilly and snowy Friday in the Twin Cities, this would not be a popular play, but I could lay out the Detroit Pistons can be in this conversation, and here's why. I agree 100%.
I mean, 5th overall pick, Alzer Thompson. All right. In 2022, they had the 5th pick. They took Jaden Ivey. 2021, they got Cade Cunningham 1st overall. 2019, they whiff on Killian Hayes at 7. I mean, they've been no worse than 7th overall, 4 consecutive drafts, and they currently are a half game from the worst record in the NBA. What the hell, man? Why can't they get it right?
I don't think Monty Williams is coaching that team well. I think he is from a older version of the NBA. I think he really fit Devin Booker and Chris Paul, and maybe would be able to fit that type of team now. I think he'd probably be still pretty good coaching the Phoenix Suns. But when you have a younger group that, needs to try and experiment with not only different lineup combinations, but different styles of play, I think what Mark Daigneault has done in Oklahoma City. If I had a young team that had been coming out of the tank, right? That's the type of coach I think you put around a young team, and that, you just ran through the players. It's ridiculous to me that Detroit has 12 wins and the Washington Wizards, who are literally built to lose, also have 12 wins. If you've watched a Pistons game this year and you've watched a Wizards game this year, there's no doubt which team has more talent,
right?
Which team looks more competent. So what? I mean, Monty Williams has been a good coach in the NBA, but what else can we be looking at here as part of the reason?
All right. So from team to individual, at this juncture, Dane, who would you stamp as most disappointing NBA player so far?
So I know we shouldn't do injury-related ones, but I think you texted me this, and I was thinking about it this morning. Like, the Bucks season has been weird, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like it should come from there. And, Chris Middleton has been in the league for a long time, but I think they made that Damian Lillard trade and trading out Drew Holiday with the idea that they would be getting more support from Chris Middleton.
Right.
And that it's just been kind of Dame and Giannis at the top, and obviously everything else that happened with the coaching staff. But when I watch that Milwaukee team, I think you and I have actually talked about this before. They just strike me as so thin on the perimeter that, you ultimately can't really achieve your goals, which is a championship for them or going to the championship, I think, without Chris Middleton. So I understand it's unfair to apply some injury to that. But that was weirdly, when I was just looking through, that was one that really came to mind for me.
What? Okay. Well, you mentioned the Wizards a minute and a half ago. What about Jordan Poole? I mean, okay, granted, he's 6-man spot starter for the Warriors, and he gets traded, and he's got that big fat deal and everything. But when they moved one of the more popular players in the DC / Maryland, Virginia area in Bradley Beal, Poole was, Kuzma's, but Poole was supposed to fill that void from a popularity standpoint, a scoring output standpoint. I mean, he's just been awful. Can he be in that conversation?
I think so. I mean, he's definitely in one of the worst contracts in the league conversation, because I think he's got 30 a year for the next 4 years, if I'm correct on that. I guess my thinking is I didn't go into the year thinking Jordan Poole was good. Did you? I mean,
yeah, I did.
Yeah, I guess 2 years ago he was good at the finals, but just kind of what had happened in Golden State. Mm-hmm. I think just those type of 6-man players are such a razor's edge of being really helpful or really hurtful. The kind of all offense, no defense guys. You got to be having an offensive season like Malik Monk is having to be really impactful there. And I haven't looked at it recently, but isn't Poole shooting 27% from 3 this season? Shooting a bunch of shots.
Yeah.
I'm not watching a lot of Wizards games, but when I'm watching, I'm not really seeing that player who, when you put the ball in his hands, he strikes fear in anyone. Well, kind of seems like he strikes excitement.
And Dane, injuries aside, because you're discussing Middleton and injuries and stuff like that. So this plays in with Jimmy the Bulldog, Jimmy Butler. But I could argue he could be in this conversation with as much as he taps out. And then if you read the stories from Sun Sentinel or whomever's covering the Heat, there will be an air of Jimmy could have played. But Jimmy didn't play because it's the regular season. All right, now Spo gets that big deal, and Tyler Hero. Seriously, it's going to be 3 consecutive seasons. Tyler Hero finishes the season on the IR, injured, so that's a buzzkill in its own right. But Butler, if he's playing the game of I could play, people paid money, potentially thousands of dollars to see me play, but I'm not going to play because I'm saving whatever for the postseason. That's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, man, but also, that's the Jimmy Butler story, right? It's been that way for a little bit now. And to his credit, he's played this string out during the regular season and turned it on in the playoffs every year. I think
true.
He's still a good player. It's maddening how much he blatantly doesn't care. It seems to not care about how often, he is or isn't playing. And to your point about all the fans paying money, I don't know. Jimmy's such a weird one to me because he is good when he does play, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he went for 30 the other night off a 5-game layoff. He's one of my favorite players in the game. And when he does play and when he does engage, that there's everything about him during those games that really makes me wish he still was here. But that's okay. Now, finally, on the outside of the Timberwolves covenant for Dane, and with the right to change the opinion due to, let's say, injuries, all right? Who Who wins the NBA Finals and why?
Oh, man. I think I'm going Denver Nuggets, man. I still think I'm there.
Me too.
I mean, it's the case for Boston is a case that you make based on their path to get there, right? I think we would all agree that Denver's path to going to the finals is going to be significantly harder than, Boston's is. One reason being Denver's going to have to go through Minnesota amongst, Oklahoma City and the LA teams and whatever. Like, in the East, I feel really confident that Boston's going to get there, but I always just try to focus on which team do I trust in that game? Like, what if they actually get there and it is Nuggets Celtics? Like, are you not going to pick Jokic in that spot? It's very hard for me to pick against Jokic in anything right now, and that's not to take away from Tatum having another good year. Jaylen Brown has really been ascending, I think, low key for them. It's got to start with those two teams, right? I think we're getting kind of cute if we're picking anybody else than those two to be in the finals.
With the Wolves, are you feeling a Rudy return, or are we still waiting with Gobert and Nas, like maybe until, I don't know, early next week?
I got the sense with the Gobert one that it was closer. It was kind of a pain tolerance, like range of motion. They're calling it a rib sprain. I think we can all sort of picture other athletes we've heard deal with like cracked ribs and stuff like that, and just how tough that is from a range of motion, pain tolerance type deal. But it was seeming like Gobert was trending close in the right direction. So I don't know. I was kind of thinking, tonight or Sunday, he took off the back-to-back Monday, Tuesday, which buys him all this time until Friday to work on that pain tolerance. That kind of made some sense to me there. And then with Nas, all we've gotten on that is head injury. He was ruled out in advance of the game on Tuesday, but that's not, what I don't even want to say concussion, but that's kind of like the worst scenario of that head injury. And then how long does that keep you out? A week? Right? Like, I guess we don't see those that often in the NBA. It depends on the severity. But long story short, I don't get this sense that either of them are at any risk of being out for a long period of time. I would expect, by Sunday at the latest, even though I haven't heard explicitly.
What, Dane, what did you pull from the close loss Tuesday to Denver, given the players Finch had at his disposal?
Man, I rewatched that game yesterday. The defense in the second half was awesome.
Wow.
Awesome. And in a different way than we're used to seeing it be awesome, right? It was with Kyle Anderson at the 5. Which I think is a huge credit to this team from a defensive standpoint. Playing defense at an elite level with 7'2" Rudy Gobert at the rim versus playing high-level defense, focusing more on switching, a diversity of different schemes with Kyle Anderson there. Like, if you just go back and you watch the Denver possessions, and we're talking about Denver, one of the best offensive teams in the league, Kyle Anderson, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, and Mike Conley, they made that really hard for them in a situation where they were down by 15 at halftime. They had every reason to fold. They have all three of their top three centers are out. I was really impressed with the compete level in the second half, particularly the defense stood out, and Kyle Anderson shape-shifting from being a point guard for a lot of this season to the starting center in that game. I thought it stood out even more to me watching it back, how impressive the defense was. And then that kind of like lets Ant go do his thing. What Ant had like 15 in the third quarter there. I found that second half to matter, like really matter from a momentum standpoint of like, they lose that game by 25 and you go into playing Cleveland tonight and Golden State on Sunday. Like, that's not good from a momentum standpoint. The locker room being in there afterwards, like, you don't like to use the moral victory term, but like, they were like, okay, this is cool. We didn't have all these guys. We're impressed with our ability to have played a good game without Rudy Gobert or any of our centers. Like, I think that really mattered. That's credit to the defense and the players who were out there, and the Target Center crowd was really into that game, even though, we kind of knew they were going to lose given how many players they were losing.
Dane Moore covers the Timberwolves at Dane Moore NBA via Twitter. Time for a couple more. And off that game, I mean, maybe it's a basketball version of a hardwood epiphany, but can get Luka Garza. All right. Can Luka Garza be a guy who plays like 12 to 15 minutes in playoff games? Teams forget about him and he drains threes.
Not yet, I don't think, right? And maybe these last few games are an example of that. I really want to see Luka get a shot at some point in the league. And if we're being totally honest, that shot's probably not coming on the team that has three centers above him in the pecking order, right? Like, isn't an ideal roster to be on if you're Luka Garza. But this organization has given him a chance. They give him opportunities when there's injuries. I mean, last year in like February, January, right? He was playing a lot after Carl got hurt there too. I think he's a fascinating archetype of player in today's game where we were asking Finch about it before the game the other day. And he's like, I can't remember any other time where your 15th guy cracks the rotation and his job is to go score. Like he said, Luka has the ultimate green light. I'm like, yeah, that is true. That is weird that a guy that gets buried deep on your bench to being like, hey, actually, we need you to take about 14 shots a half now. Like it's a crazy job. And obviously that's the job because the defense isn't there. But I would even throw Luka Garza in that defense was better in the second half group. Like he fought Jokic in that game, and he's slow-footed, but it's cool, man. It's cool covering a player who knows what their weakness is and talks about it publicly to the media and explains why it's important for them to grow in that area and do that. That's not common, man. I've covered a lot of players who are bad defenders, and they won't touch it. Like Luka, I give him respect for being like, this is not a good part of my game. I'm working on it, and I actually thought it showed up. In that Denver game that he has been growing as a defender, even if he's not a good defender.
Last one, my brother, you're fantastic. Why do you think Jaden McDaniels has been quite inconsistent this season?
Oh, man, good question. I don't know. It's been a tough one to cover. Me and Chase Frederick did an episode of my show before the game against the Nuggets on Tuesday, and we were pretty tough on him. Chase kind of compared him to Andre Roberson. I compared him to Dylan Brooks. And I'm trying to recalibrate what should we be expecting out of Jaden McDaniels. I think he got the extension right. He got the Mikal Bridges comparison. And we all just kind of moved into our heads that was the step that Jaden McDaniels was going to take this season. And offensively, it doesn't really seem like he has. And there's some disappointment in that, but man, it's tough when you're the fifth option on the floor all the time to be able to really show and establish and grow what your offensive game is. Finch has been on it from the beginning of the season of actually Jaden's going to be able to shoot less this season. He didn't have a big role last year, but Cat was out, right?
Yeah. Cat
comes back this year, and it's I don't know, when people note to me oh, Jaden's scoring is down this season. I'm like, yeah, I get it. At the same time, when he gets opportunities, which I think has been very frustrating for the 2 weeks that Carl's been out, the Denver game notwithstanding, he has not shown more offense. But to his credit, in that Denver game, he got the confidence going. I mean, I think he's such a confidence player, PA. If you see him if he hits one or two threes in the first quarter, I feel pretty good about the idea that the Wolves are going to win that game, regardless of who the opponent is. If you have your fifth offensive player playing confidently, I don't know, look out for Jaden McDaniels and the Wolves there, but it has been inconsistent this year.
Greatly appreciate the time, not only today, but the other opportunities you have to come on 9 to noon. And we say that with gratitude. Enjoy the game this evening, and I'm sure we'll talk soon, okay?
Yes, sir. Thanks, P.A.
Yep, see you, bud. Dane Moore. Dane Moore, NBA via the X Machine. It's approaching 10:30. Happy Friday. This is 9 to noon. Welcome back.
back. It's News to Nord, brought to you by Canterbury's Card Casino. It's poker, blackjack, and table games all year round. Live racing, less than a couple of months away. So just get to CanterburyPark.com to learn all event details. It is News to Nord. And following up, thanks again to Dane Moore for joining to chat about the Howl for an extended segment. 6:45 p.m. pregame and the 7 p.m.-ish. I always put it that way because it could be 7:05, it could be 7:10, it could be 7:12. I apologize for my lack of distinct accuracy in terms of the time of the tip. But the Wolves are hosting the Cleveland Cavaliers this evening. Fresh off that loss the other night, as fun as it was, the idea of getting back on the winning side of things is clear, and it's got to be at Target Center tonight against the Cavaliers. One more game at home over the weekend as well, Sunday against the Warriors. The Wolves are 7.5-point favorites. Cavs coming in without Donovan Mitchell, so it'll be Darius Garland. No Evan Mobley, so I believe it'll be heavy on Jarrett Allen. How big can the Cavs play against the squad that we saw the other night? Without Nas, without Rudy, of course, Cat on the shelf longer than both of those. The inability to match up with Joker led to issues. So maybe it's the Garza show again. Slow-mo, Mr. Anderson in the mix as well. But offense from Conley, Jaden McDaniels, important in this mix as we move forward. Things Wild. They're off tonight, but they need one tomorrow night, 1 p.m. matinee. They are hosting the St. Louis Blues. Blues passed them in the standings. 12 games left. Whole thing's about over if they lose another one, but they definitely got to beat the Blues tomorrow. You're going to get to hear that. And we have NCAA tournament coverage on the Fan tomorrow as well. So you'll hear the matinee, then you're going to get to hear some tourney games. But go Wild and go Wolves tonight. Back to the tournament. Among all the games, and I don't want to say it wasn't a disappointing day. There were some really cool games, but it was the larger seeds kind of dominated, did their thing. Not a surprise there for the most part, but it was Izzo winning the 8-9 game against Mississippi State to kick things off. Other big seeds handling their business. But how about the 11s? Duquesne beats BYU 71-67. NC State kind of dominates Texas Tech 80-67. And Oregon battered the Gamecocks 87-73. So 3 11 seeds yesterday advancing. Dayton, Nevada. That was an awesome game. The Flyers down 17. It was 56-39 with 7.5 left to go. And they went on a 17-0 run to tie it and ended up winning 63-60, the Flyers. Nevada scored 4 points in that 7.5-minute stretch of the game. That was an awesome one. But back to what we discussed a bit during the first hour. How about Jack Golke?
Got it to Golke. Turnaround three-pointer. Shot no good. But the rebound comes down. Oakland covers it. Golke got it back. He wants another three. That one is good. Golke did it again. 10 made three-pointers. A 5-point lead for Oakland.
10 triples for Mr. Golke, and this was bouncing around social media last night. Oakland upsets Kentucky on the back of Jack Golke. Well, he had 355 shot attempts all season long, 355. 347 of them were triples, and he made 10 last night.
And he's a bench guy.
I think 11 in a single game is the NCAA single-game tournament record. Don't ask me who the name is. I have no idea. Not notable. But check this out. Kentucky beat Providence last year as a 6 seed in the opening game. Then they lose to K-State in the second round. So they get bounced last night, 14 over the 3 seed Kentucky. Last year they lose in the second round. 2022, they lose as a 2 seed to St. Peter's. The Catholics went on that Elite 8 run that year. 2021, they only won like 9 games. The COVID killed Kentucky, PA. Because it was Elite 8, it was Sweet 16, it was all of that. They're 25-6 into the spring of 2020. Tournaments canceled, world ends, and they have not been the same since, which kind of plays into that Jay Wright audio that we offered up earlier as well. You got teams with kids in their 5th and 6th year eligibility. You got 30-year-olds playing college hoops. Golke, by the way, I don't know how old he is. He looks like he's 30 out there while scoring 30 against the Wildcats. But Calipari's kids, as good as they are during the regular season, this is now a 3-4 year consistent thing.
Yep.
and they failed to measure up as a high-seeded operation last night. I imagine those that follow Kentucky love Kentucky, the college basketball institution that Kentucky is. They're on fire right now. Everyone wants Calipari fired, although he has like a $34 million buyout.
Gee.
So that's an issue. And so things are negative for Kentucky. But other than Samford, Kansas, which was a great way to end the night with some drama, that Oakland over Kentucky game was the highlight of Thursday.
Yeah, there were two things, the way I look at things, that came out of yesterday. Maybe three. And we'll see. Maybe they get bounced by Oakland tomorrow. But this NC State thing, I'll say it again. Be wary of this NC State team. I don't know what their seed is. I don't care. I know what I saw against North Carolina.
They were 11 seed, I believe.
And I know what I saw yesterday. And it's like what the LA Rams did when they won the Super Bowl, man. I mean, they just went complete free agency on it, and it worked. Well, NC State, through the transfer portal, has some unbelievable players they got via the transfer. And when they won that 5 in a row in the ACC tournament, beating Duke, there was a buzzer-beating three-pointer this kid named O'Connell hit against Virginia, forced it to overtime. Then they won that one. And then they beat the Blue Bloods, the North Carolina Tar Heels, in the ACC championship game. Now they usurp and upset Texas Tech, which wasn't a big favorite, but nevertheless a higher seed and a favorite. So NC State has caught my eye. Secondly, Tom Izzo. All right. Now, in watching the first half of Michigan State and Mississippi State, it was clear Michigan State was the right side and the better team. Mississippi State has some athletes, and Mississippi State came charging at Sparty approaching half, cut it to like a 4, 5, 6 point lead, something like that. If you look closely, right before halftime, that Tom Izzo was chatting with an assistant coach. The assistant coach was showing him something on a board. Izzo was nodding his head like, yep, got it, yep, got it, yep, got it. And then halftime hit. And I looked at somebody and I'm like, I don't know who the coach is of Mississippi State, but what Tom Izzo is about to do to that squad with second half adjustments should be a felony in 48 states. You could just see it on his face that somebody found something, they capitalized on it, and they killed them in the second half. And thirdly, Big Ten undefeated so far in the NCAA tournament. And these Big Ten teams, man, you know, no matter what we see, hear about, or read during the course of the regular season, when these Big Ten teams, generally speaking, hit bowl games or the early stages of the NCAA tournament, they're rock chalk tough, man. I mean, they are just tough. And you got some more coming up today. I think the first to play is Northwestern.
Yeah, first one plays 11:15 while we're still on the air. They're the 9 seed against Florida Atlantic. Of course, you got Purdue going today, Wisconsin going today. Nebraska going today. They're in another 8-9 game. So plenty to watch in terms of Big Ten teams as Michigan State and Illinois moved on yesterday. Final things, news to Nord. Michigan does have a pro day today. More than 150 NFL staffers of some sort, coaches, scouts, GMs, etc., are expected to be in Michigan. It isn't all about J.J. McCarthy. Turns out national champs got a lot of good high-end talent that people will be reviewing. It's been reported Josh McCown, quarterback's coach, and then he's an assistant QB coach / maybe special projects. He's got a couple of different titles. Grant Udinsky. They'll be in Ann Arbor specifically for that pro day today, checking out maybe JJ and some others. KOC and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, they had set up, and I've seen it reported maybe it already happened, a private workout / meeting that they had with J.J. McCarthy specifically. So that's Pro Day 1 today. And for those thinking, well, J.J.'s cool, that's all right, but all this Drake mate, what's going on with Drake? Well, North Carolina's Pro Day is next Thursday. So some more excitement around that.
Also, I would assume Missouri has a Pro Day today. And here's why. Because I have intel that some significant Vikings constituents were St. Louis bound yesterday, assumedly for the Missouri Pro Day today. So who knows the who, what, where, when, and why of the things at which they are gandering. but don't kill the messenger. We're just trying to follow the crumbs.
Well, what is the date today? It is March 22nd. So Auburn, was that War Eagle? Boston College, go Flores, Florida State, Kentucky, Michigan, and Missouri.
Is today.
Missouri has a pro day today. That is accurate. Well, cool. Well, good luck on all the pro day related bits. J.J. McCarthy, whoop it up. And the quarterback conversation continues. That wraps up News to Nord, brought to you by Canterbury's Card Casino. It's the casino at Canterbury Park.
And the Vikes Bites are next. After that, really, really excited to meet Tim Rump, a senior producer for NFL Films. He was the one to follow around Kirk Cousins last year and Justin Jefferson this year for a summer series coming out called Receiver. That's going to be about 11:03, but Vikes Bites are next.
Vikes Bites! Brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. You can go to thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com. You can shop online. You can check out my Twitter account /X at MadProducer1. I tweeted it out yesterday. What does a box look like from Thousand Hills when it shows up on your doorstep? You can see that on social media. You can see it at the website. Thousand Hills. Met Matt, the owner, yesterday. And tremendous company. Even better, dude. Love working with those guys, Thousand Hills. And, last segment, talking about pro days and J.J. McCarthy and Drake May and all of that. The vibe right now is that the Vikings have to trade up. So with any trade, you got to consummate a relationship, put a deal together, and make it happen. So I'm just Googling. I love reading blogs and those that cover some of these teams right now, specifically the Arizona Cardinals. And I saw this from Cardinals GM Monty Ossenfort. And here's what he says. He reveals the team would be open to hearing offers to trade out of the number 4 overall pick. There will be a big neon sign that says open. And I don't like it blinking. It messes with my eyes, but we're always going to be listening, he joked on Wednesday at a news conference alongside head coach Jonathan Gannon. Gannon in the mix. I think we'll always have the conversation. We may not get to a point where a deal makes sense, whether it's at number 4 or anywhere we're picking, but we're always going to have the conversation, and if it makes sense, if it's attractive to building our team, then it's something that we'll certainly consider no matter where we're at in the draft. So Cardinals are a bad team, maybe stockpiling picks. That's on the mind of Mr. Ossenfort. And, of course, maybe while they need that playmaking wide receiver, they may need other things as well. But at this point, cap number and everything included, they got Kyler, so QB's not on their mind. I saw this from NESN. Is that maybe Northeastern Sports Network, whatever the NESN is? It's Boston area. And this is in regard to Scott Zolak. Former Patriots QB, now serves as a radio color commentator for the team. He believes New England shouldn't force the issue if the chips don't fall in its favor.
Yep.
If they aren't in love at 3 with the QB and not going to play him, I say trade. It's according to Zolak per the Boston Globe, as a matter of fact. Especially with still not having a number 1 receiver or a starting left tackle through free agency. Recent report claimed the Patriots have not shown an appetite for trading the 3rd overall pick. You've mentioned it. You had Chad Graff on your show. He gave it in the world of arbitrary percentages, feeling things out. He said about 30%. Maybe they'd think about trading out of that spot. De facto general manager Elliott Wolf reportedly has a goal to stockpile picks, however, and New England could rake in a haul with a first-round trade, and at least one team might be gearing up to make the Patriots an offer they can't refuse. They do not love Drake May, that's also been reported, who arguably would be the best available quarterback if Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels are taken with the first 2 picks. If those selections come to pass, the Patriots might want to heed Mr. Zolak's advice. So this will lead me to something I want to bring up momentarily, but what do you think about from Zolak's perspective, chatting with Chad Graff about it as well, where it's subterfuge season? Of course, Ossenfort's open to trade and everything makes sense. That's totally cool. Maybe a deal and a handshake's already in place. We'll never know. But they got to want it, and they got to see the benefits of it as much as we are here thinking about moving up. I have noticed a sea change specifically among those that cover the Cardinals feeling it's more and more possible, the same way that we flippantly say we got to move up to 4 and take JJ. Cardinals fans are like, well, I wonder what we're going to get for number 4 when we trade back. There's a bit, I think, within the fan bases at least, and in Rube Covenant, Rube Nations, that this is kind of a thing, that it's going to happen. It's just kind of which team is going to be the one that partners up with the Vikings. Where are you sitting on all that as we still kind of walk our way up to the draft 5 weeks from now?
I do believe trading with the New England Patriots is a far greater possibility, and I do say far greater possibility, than I did when I was at the Combine. Okay, so there's that. And Zolak may not, and Zolak knows more about football than I'll ever know. He may not love Drake May. I do. And I'm not making picks, either is he. But I love Drake May. And I hope the Minnesota Vikings end up with him. But to do that, you're going to need to get to that spot. And that's going to be 11, 23, and next year's first round draft pick. So I think that all is being bandied about now. Secondly, with the Patriots, Elliot Wolf, the de facto GM, he's right. I mean, it's what I said with Alec Lewis earlier. Is okay. They get the return of Jacoby Brissett, but still taking a quarterback in their position, it just really makes sense. And it doesn't mean the guy has to play. Now, Zolak's like, they may not like the quarterbacks available or like Drake May the way some other people do or think they do. But Scott's like, if you take one there, the guy has to play immediately. And if he doesn't play immediately, maybe, skip. I don't necessarily agree with that. So finally, Gerard Mayo, new coach of the Patriots, and Kevin O'Connell, they're very close. And they came into the league together. They were drafted in the same draft class. I just wonder if they're, like what's going on with that conversation too, if there even are ever any conversations. So it's meaty, it's rich, it's succulent, and it's quite stimulating for those into the NFL draft. But I do believe where this time a month ago, I'd be like, New England, that's a 2%er. Yeah, I definitely think it's higher than that. When 9 to noon continues, we are going to chat with a senior producer for NFL Films. His name is Tim Rumpf. And he was the one to follow around Justin Jefferson for a summer series on Netflix called Receiver. And Tim, the senior producer for NFL Films, he joins 9 to noon next on KFAN.